Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for your time. In the interest of staying on time for the webinar, we do want to go ahead and get started. Welcome to today's webinar from FAQ to ROI, 90% plus satisfaction and 20% savings across campuses. And in this webinar, we will be discussing Black Belt Help's human AI solutions, in particular voice and chat intelligence, and how those are built for more than just answering questions. Uh, Wanted to cover a few housekeeping items before we move through the beginning of the presentation. For one, at the bottom of your screen, you will see an option to ask questions. Please feel free to ask questions as we move throughout the day. There is a dedicated time at the end of the webinar for us to take questions, but do not hesitate to ask as we move through. And we do have folks that will nudge us to let us know if there are questions. As you can see on the screen, here's today's agenda. We will be doing some welcome and introductions here briefly. I'll provide an overview of BBH for those that may not be familiar with us. And then we'll talk and dive into the evolution and future of student support driven through Black Belt Help's human AI. And so we do have quite a bit to cover. I do want to start by introducing the folks on Black Belt Help's team. Myself, since I'm already talking, I'll go first. Joe Heltzel, Vice President of Customer Success here at Black Belt Help. I've been with Black Belt Help a little over a year and work primarily with our clients post-implementation. So that's a little bit about me. I'm going to kick it over to Chris.
Thank you, Joe. My name is Chris Uthe, and I am the Chief Product Officer here at Black Belt Help. I've been here a little over a year as well, and have spent my entire life in higher ed software, and I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. So let's hop on in and spend a little bit of time just on Black Belt Help. So we've been in the industry for a little over 20 years, and we serve about 150 plus partners. And you can see that we've interacted a ton with students during that time. Over 4 million students served, roughly a million interactions or more a year coming through our platforms. And as you can see, we are the trusted partner for AI-powered 24/7 support across IT and student help desk services. And we offer a very unique blend of intelligent automation and human expertise that we call human AI, which Chris will spend quite a bit of time today diving into what that means for us and a whole bunch of other things. So it definitely will get talked about a lot today. Our primary focus in assisting students is going to be with their support needs across IT, learning management, admissions, financial aid, etc. Pretty much, if you've got an inflection point where there are students, there's a good likelihood that the services that we provide have the ability to assist to reduce any friction that would be there and make it a more seamless experience. Here are some of the technologies that we offer. And so on the left-hand side of the screen, you have our, AI and technology solutions. So our voice and chat intelligence, AI-powered texting, our integrated support platform, and of course, data and analytics. There's nothing better than getting information on the services that we're providing that's actionable. And then you do have our human support side of the network as well. So even though we are driving more and more interaction through technology and AI in particular, we still recognize that at the right time and in the right moment, a human touch is exactly what's needed. And so we offer that through our IT and LMS help desks, our one-stop, help desk for student support services, and then our enterprise application support. So we do offer quite a bit that's there on both sides, but just wanted to make folks familiar with the Black Belt Help ecosystem as far as it pertains to products and services. We also play very nicely with a lot of other systems, and you'll probably hear Chris mention this multitude of times today, but you can see across your campus ecosystem, whether it's your CRM, your LMS, your SIS, or your ITSM, we have already had experience integrating with most of the major brands and most frequently used systems in those areas. And so you're coming to a vendor here that has a lot of experience in doing that, and that's one of the differentiators for us compared to other vendors in this space are our seamless integrations into these systems. Some of our clients. So many of you may be wondering who all does Black Belt help work with. And so it runs the spectrum from prominent 2-year institutions to prominent 4-year public and private institutions. And you can see looking across the board, folks like Columbia and Cornell and a few others that are there as well that we help service. So wanted to make you aware of that. So highlighting the actual problem that we're solving for on campus. And so when new students arrive to your campus, they're unfamiliar in the environment. They're not sure necessarily where to go for support. And we know that in a lot of cases, this is an area where colleges have historically maybe fallen a little bit short of how do we assist students making their way through what we like to call the campus maze. And the impact that that can have if it's not organized well is 60% of students are typically unaware of the services that are offered. First year students in particular often feel overwhelmed by the size and complexity of the campus. And 55% of undergraduate students in the US today still identify as first gen students. We move further, you've got 1 out of 3 first year students who do not advance to sophomore year. So we already know retention is an issue, and it's something that is on the forefront of most college administrators' minds is how do we keep students here once they're here? And only 60% of students who enroll in college earn a degree or credential within 8 years of graduating high school. Those are some astounding numbers. And when you add in BBH, what we're looking to do is to tame that maze and pull it into a seamless ecosystem of opportunity to provide seamless interactions with students. And so, through a lot of the systems that we offer and services and products that we offer, we do have that ability to make that maze go away, so to speak, and provide a seamless one point of interaction for students and to some extent even faculty and staff if the institution needs that assistance as well to look as a central hub for support on campus. All right, so we are at a point where we're going to pause for a moment and ask our first poll question before we jump into interacting with Chris for a while.
And that poll should have popped up by now. So we'll give you just a minute to fill it out, and then we will keep on a rolling here.
Thank you. Give it just another few seconds here. All right. Hopefully, a majority of folks have had a chance to answer, so we will move on. And so, Chris, now's the time where going to get here a little bit from you, and I wanted to start off just very quickly. And I think as you jump in, you'll be answering this question, but just can you talk about just the overall evolution of AI within the higher ed space, kind of where we've been as an industry, where we kind of currently are, and then how within that Black Belt help is moving towards that future.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. And I think it really is encompassed by our push towards what we're calling human AI. Previously, you've probably heard folks talk about chatbots, and you've heard them talk about AI, and heard them talk about, throwing phrases like agentic around. We're trying to, with human AI, we're really putting it all together into one sort of comprehensive package that talks about just focuses on the value of getting your students help, right? And so instead of focusing on the toys and the tech and the different things like that, we're focused on the outcome of just answering questions. And us, like many other companies, started in the AI realm utilizing something called intent matching. And so we had done some work and still have a lot of customers utilizing good intent matching systems where we try to match questions with questions that are in our database and then provide the answers that's pre-recorded in our database. And that does work. There's a lot of upside to that particular strategy. But we're seeing the AI world move really fast right now, and most of the areas that we're moving towards and around involve large language models and generative AI. That generative AI can be a very scary word, but also a really useful tool. And so we are in the middle of rolling out all of a whole stack of generative AI things that solve a lot of problems. And I'm really excited to talk about sort of the way that we've approached it and why we think this is going to solve some issues for our customers and where it really provides value into the institution. So if we look at the next slide here, we've got an issue flow. And from Black Belt Help standpoint, we're always focused right on that issue that the student has. So Joe, if you're our student and you're calling in with a problem or you're trying to get to the institution with an issue that you need help with, this is sort of the way that Black Belt Help sees that issue flow coming. We're going to spend a lot of time today talking about web chat because it's an easy way to sort of show that issue flow happening. Um, but our vision and our tech stack is really centered around making all of this available regardless of the modality, whether that's a phone call or a voice chat or a web chat or an email. All of those things should flow through the same process. And because we really are designing this to be as low lift as possible, we want that all to flow through the same setup, the same reporting, the same data providing. All of those things are going to be the same. So you can see we drop into that first orange box in the middle there, which is human AI intelligence software. And we're combining a mix of maintained and integrated data. And when I say maintained data, what we're talking about, and we're going to look at this live, we'll jump into the admin area, but we're talking about things like your website or your student handbook or anything else that may inform the AI of how to answer questions about your institution. And then when we flip to the other side and talk about integrated data, that's where it gets even more exciting because we're transitioning then from an FAQ bot into an integrated bot. And we're going to get really in depth on this, but we really want to provide students with answers that are specific to them, that are unique, that are more helpful from that standpoint. And we do that by integrating with all those systems that you saw in that pie chart slide a few slides back. The one slice that we're missing from that particular slide that I'll mention as well, what we're talking about is the IAMs, things like Azure Active Directory, things like Quick Launch, things like those password providers and MFA providers are all also included in our integration list. So that integrated data can let us do multiple things. It can let us validate a user's identity in many cases. It can let us pull information like balances and holds and things like that. It can let us perform actions like resetting passwords, things like that, all through the AI layer. The next step down from the human AI intelligence software are the human agents. This may or may not exist for your institution. We certainly like to think that our agents bring a lot to the table. They're an excellent team excellent team that has been trained heavily, and we have a lot of options that go with that, whether that's pooled or shared resources, dedicated resources, international, domestic. There's a lot of options as to how we get some support for your institution that isn't ringing your phone necessarily, and that can be nights and weekends, or it can be 24/7. A lot of options there, and they have access to the same sets of data through the agent portal and the integrated data. We're really increasing that efficiency of the agents, trying to make sure that we get all of the data that they need in front of them as quickly as possible. At that point, we're either going to close this call or this issue as successful, or we're going to escalate it to the institution. And so escalating to the institution, of course, means, hey, the AI and or human agents on our side couldn't take care of it, so we want to get it to you. But we want to give you all of the information, all the things that we've figured out and tried in between the start of the issue and now. And that can be very helpful to have, all of those forms and different things organized and filled out and ready to go, basically, for you to pick it up and keep going. On the right-hand side of this screen, of this slide, I'll point out we have our customer portal over there. And you'll see that we have and we're going to dive into this live in just a second here, but we have things like reporting and data handling and chat logs and audit data and call details. We really are trying to centralize the student issue handling and all of the reporting and data that goes with it into one area for you so that we're not jumping through a whole bunch of hoops trying to string together an email string and figuring out where everything exists and doesn't exist. And so we'll jump into that real shortly here. At this point, I think it's best to pull up some of our software and start talking about start showing what we're talking about and get specific. So, Joe, if it's okay with you, I'm going to steal the screen here.
Please do.
Right. So I am sharing my web browser. Everything, of course, is primarily web-based for interacting with our software, which is as one would expect. And I've bounced into the default sort of bot insights page, which is part of our reporting and analytics. And so every AI that we set up has a bunch of reporting that goes with it, and we're going to bounce between bot insights and bot performance and a little bit of question explorer to talk about sort of how we put together the data that we create when we have these AIs in play. So as you can see, we're showing that we've had 2,696 questions between May 1st and today. We're averaging 43 questions a day. We're averaging 8 questions per session, and we're showing that we're averaging about a 20-minute session length. Showing the total number of sessions and unique users. So 389 sessions have generated 2,600 questions, basically. We track a lot of information, questions per day, question interaction by channel. So whether that's chat, meaning, text over the web, or whether it's an IVR, which would be like a phone call, we're going to combine all of that into one reporting area here so that you don't have multiple places to go. Things like our top intents and our most frequent words are just showing sort of, hey, what's being utilized in the system, what's happening here. So we've got a lot of uni, a lot of email, and a lot of password and summer questions happening at the moment. So this particular demo bot is all demo data, obviously, but it gives us an idea of what's being asked. The bot performance area sort of really gets into the core of how we escalate issues and where they go. So in this case, we're tracking things like what percentage did the bot answer? What percentage has been transferred to an agent? How many unanswered questions did we generate? How many answered questions did we generate? What our CSAT is, what our thumbs up and thumbs down score is, and then a bunch of that information sort of tracked over time. Closed versus transferred. Did we need to escalate this to the institution or do we take care of it ourselves? Things like that. What is our feedback for the bot? And again, what origin? So where did this particular bot spin up and get questions asked? And then, we've got a whole bunch of different reports that are available depending on what you need and what you don't need. These areas are really, really customizable, which is awesome. And one of the things that I love the most about our customer portal. So we can add and remove things from here. We can get it specifically tuned into what you're trying to track and what you're trying to pay attention to. If we look at things like the CSAT report, we get a report of every single time a user ended a conversation and filled out the customer satisfaction survey. And so we always encourage our customers at the end of every conversation to have a customer satisfaction survey, and we can download and organize and sort those conversations through our CSAT report. Anywhere in the customer portal that you see this little eyeball, that's a key to basically say, hey, we've got a transcript or a recording that you can view or listen to. So if I click the eyeball, I'm going to get the full transcript of this particular conversation. So that's a little bit of like the very high level side of things. Let's look at the chatbot itself and where our AI is getting its information. And I want to highlight this GenAI ingest data page to sort of talk about where we're getting data and how we're getting that. So for this particular AI brain, for our GenAI demo bot, we've got generative AI turned on. That's an option for our customers right now. So you can have generative AI turned on or turned off. Generative AI is quite good, so I don't suggest not having it. But from here, we can look at the ingest URLs and files that have been uploaded to sort of provide the knowledge to our AI. If I look at our ingest URLs, we've ingested 2,357 pages from Columbia's website, actually, to use as sort of demo data or examples of how the ingest works. So we've got, quite a bit of data. What's interesting about our chatbot is all of the data the ingest URLs and files could be PDFs, Word docs, things like that. All of those are unique to each of our individual instances of the AI. So you can create bots that are dedicated to certain things, or you can have one bot that knows a lot of things about your institution. The nice part is that that data is always yours and yours alone, so you're not having to share that data with any other institution. Okay, that's a lot of setup and a lot of background, also that I can show you how our bot answers questions and why that's important. As we evolve and move forward, the AI needs to become much more conversational than it has been in the past. Students are very familiar with what generative AI can do and are familiar with chatbots and other AI uses of Gen AI and large language models. So they start asking questions in a much more sort of regular voice, right? So things like, will I be able to park on campus as a student during the week? So our AI is going to do several things. Um, First thing it's going to do is it's going to take a look at that question and see if it can rewrite it a few different ways. This is really helpful when you have students that just start putting in keywords, as students sometimes do. And then it's going to go search through all of that information that we've provided it. I want to make something really clear here. The AI is explicitly told not to rely on its previously trained knowledge, meaning when this model was created, it was trained on a certain amount of knowledge to make it conversational and have its abilities. We basically say, yeah, that's great. Don't assume that any of that is applicable here. Only assume that the information that we've given you is applicable. What that means is that we can be very specific about what the AI answers questions out of, and there's much less head scratching on where the AI managed to find that answer. So, for instance, in this case, I was concerned about parking on campus as a student during the week, and I was pretty specific about all the different issues. And the AI came back and said, "Hey, it is really limited, especially Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. We primarily reserve that space for faculty and senior administrators." And then it makes some suggestions and says, "Hey, you can explore alternative options. Here's the link to some rideshare information for if you really do need to park on campus. It is available through these means, Fridays and the weekends in this garage and in this garage, and it's $25 a vehicle." So it tells me everything I need to know that so that I can understand that, hey, that's probably a bad idea, but also if I absolutely have to do it, how I can do that. And it gives me a couple alternatives. So this information is all coming from different websites that have been ingested. So these are coming from obviously transportation.columbia.edu. So I could jump over there and see all of the information on that page if I want to. But our goal, of course, is to give the student everything that they need without having to jump to another page. We don't really want to be a search engine if we can avoid it. Further, because we've got some AI bits and pieces in here that are kind of fun, and we have a lot of power at our fingertips, how we handle questions that sort of stray away from what this is really designed to do is really flexible and open. So if I say, "Why is the sky blue?" which is my favorite question for a generative AI, it's going to come back with an answer that talks about the fact that it does not have enough information to actually answer that question about that sky appearing blue. I didn't give it any websites that would explain why. Now, its underlying training knows why. It could talk about it, but I've asked it not to do that. So it's not going to. And so now it's going to say, "Hey, you may want to go to like NASA or some other websites. You may also want to reach out to the Department of Physics. If you are a student at Columbia University, they would certainly be able to tell you why the sky is blue." And this answer and sort of the way that it's approaching and the nature of its personality is very configurable, which I love. We could keep it very, basic and on point. The actual Columbia bot would have responded to you with a very specific, "I'm sorry, I can't help you. Here's a few links that may help." And there's a very like hard and fast rule about how that gets responded to. This demo bot has a lot more leash where it can sort of say, "Hey, engage the student engage the end user in some discussion, try to keep them asking questions." Similarly, when we implement AIs that are targeted at admissions and other areas, we tell it to always try to be driving that student towards that inquiry or application form. So if it figures out, "Hey, you haven't applied or you're not an active student here," When it answered you, it would probably say something to the effect of, "This is something that you could learn from one of your courses at our institution. Click here to fill out the application form." And so it's very configurable to sort of get the specific job that we want it to get done, which is a lot of fun, to be honest with you. It lets us really utilize that generative AI power to point us in the right direction about different things. So this is a start to where we're headed. And everything that we've sort of looked at so far has been um, from an FAQ or a frequently asked questions, meaning the chatbot doesn't know who I am. I don't have to tell it anything in order to have a conversation with it. I can get information about all whatever I've trained it on, and I can get more complicated information out of it. I can certainly ask it about specific things. It will ask me for additional information if it needs additional information from me to answer the question. Things like that are all within the realm of the AI's capability. Does that touch, Joe, on the current and sort of future area that you were talking about? And are there any questions that we should address from here before we move on?
Sure. Yes, definitely it does. I think, and you probably touched on it a little bit as you were walking through. I mean, I think if folks read through the lines, they kind of got bits and pieces of it, but really highlighting, what's the value add for
Yep.
switching from something that's traditionally been, a human intensive type of activity to now being much more selective of when we rely on humans and much more intentional about how we include this type of technology into the support network.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is one of the things that we designed intentionally for. The If you go back to intent-based AI, it was the value prop coming out of intent-based AI was really, hey, your students want to utilize self-service and they want this information available to them 24/7. But intent-based AI really takes a lot of maintenance. And so as we were looking at what generative AI can do and how we implement this into sort of our entire stack of technology, one of the problems that we wanted to solve for was really the heavy lift of maintaining that intent-based library. So if I go into the UI here and I go to existing questions, you can see that for our demo bot, we have a whole bunch of questions here, 163 that I have to sort of maintain and keep track of. If we look at the Gen AI demo bot, which I was just demoing out of, you can see that we have exactly 4 questions that the bot is really maintaining. Everything else is coming out of the knowledge that the bot has. So these questions basically are saying, hey, I can transfer you, I can say goodbye to you, and I can say hello to you. Everything else is realistically coming from the data that we've provided it within this Gen AI area. The other thing I'll point out with the Gen AI pieces is we've got this little re-ingest needed content. What that's telling you is, hey, we're about to re-ingest a bunch of the information that you've given us to make sure that it's up to date. So this is when we ingest data, it is a snapshot. So we're going out and reading your website or whatever other files you give us, and it's a one-time snapshot of how that looks. But every time you provide us with a URL or a sitemap with a bunch of URLs, you have the ability to set up automatic reindexing. So let's say we've got a news page that updates frequently. I can have that go re-ingest every day so that it's always the latest information. For things that don't change a lot, I might have it re-ingest once a month, might have it re-ingest once every couple months. But the important thing is once I've set it up and put it in here, I don't have to do anything else. Everything sort of runs on its own. We have the ability to spider out from one page onto multiple pages so we can sort of figure out all the different pages that might have relevant information within your domain. We can certainly follow your sitemap, things like that. We also have an expiration date. So as we collect all this information, some of it is only applicable for a certain timeline. I always use on the website. My example is oftentimes like an admissions event page. We'll create like a microsite coming out of AdmitHub or wherever. Once I have that microsite, I can ingest it and set an expiration date. I may have it's a microsite for our fall visit days, and the end date is August 16th because that's when the fall visit day actually is. And if I ingest it with an end date, with an expiration date, the bot will basically forget about this after 8/16. So you never have it accidentally answering with information about something that's already passed, for instance. I use that same sort of functionality when we're talking about ingesting files. If I ingest a PDF here, and say it's the student handbook, right? I can have it expire on, July 16th this year. That's when the 25-26 handbook is going to come out. So I can have it expire, and then I can also have it notify me, hey, remind me a week before this expires so that I remember to go upload the 25-26 handbook as well. Um, we did have one question that I wanted to address really quick, which was, can AI generate questions for the institution, i.e., like why a student hasn't registered for a course? So the AI is definitely capable of that, but we are not doing that at the moment, which would be like a proactive outreach. That is an item that we're really excited to tackle soon here, where the AI is saying, hey, based on the data, based on the information I have, you haven't done some things that you probably should have done by now, or you're sitting in a place that, it looks like you need more time to do something, or, something's not going correctly. How can I help you get through that? So that proactive outreach is something that we're definitely working on. Right now, that is limited to sort of our outbound text blasting, where we send a text message and sort of say, hey, um, you know, based on the data, this is what we're seeing. We have control over that conversation. But the bot itself is not going to spontaneously generate questions while they're having a conversation with it. It's definitely waiting for the input of the student for questions.
Sure.
Uh, Other questions, Joe, that I missed?
Oh gosh, I'm trying to think. I think you covered a lot as far as the general stuff goes. I think, for me is, where do we go from here? What's next? What's on the horizon? Um, Potentially industry wise, but, obviously for us specifically for BBH, I think you alluded to some things obviously that are coming. So what's got you most excited and what are you looking forward to as you continue to work and develop the technology?
Absolutely. So if you want to take back the screen share that you gave us to answer those questions, and if it's a frequently asked question, we want to utilize all of that different information that is available to us to answer these questions. So all of that sort of stacks up, and it's going to work regardless of the modality that question comes in on, whether it's a phone call or whatever it is. We want to utilize all of that information so that we don't make you double enter it. We're not making you maintain multiple places with all of the information. It's all there for you right out of the gate. Um, I wanted to highlight, Joe, if you could jump down to slide 13. I did want to highlight a couple examples of this working out in the real world. So I have politely changed the name of the institution this came into to institution, but in these examples, but these are real world questions from actual students, and I think that they're really interesting. So the student asked is sort of what was inputted to the AI. In this case, they literally just pasted an error out of the banner registration module. They had a problem trying to register for a class. So what do? They asked the AI for some help. So then the we interpreted it as is basically how we rewrote that question and asked the AI for information. What are the requirements for the motorcycle rider course? How do we resolve this error for invalid input value for units taken? So we basically rewrote that into two questions that we wanted the AI to respond to. Um, this is how the AI responded. To resolve this, you need to look at this, this, and this, basically, right? We had a few steps provided there, and then at the very end, we said, hey, if you're still encountering issues, here's how you get a hold of the institutional support team. This particular customer doesn't escalate to live chat, so they're saying, hey, this is how you get a hold of somebody at the institution or the support team to make sure that you get this taken care of. So from a raw error to a step-by-step plus the escalation path, is a pretty great way of sort of handling a student inquiry. If you want to hit to the next one.
Yep.
So student asked, I want to know if I will get an insurance. We interpreted that as what information is available about student health insurance options and coverage. And the AI responded with a pretty comprehensive response here. We offer various health insurance options to students. Information available. It of course gives the link so you can dive in and go a little deeper. But then it goes a step further, which I think is the most important part. And it says, hey, here's the plans that we offer based on the information that I've been given. There's this plan, there's this other plan. If you need to, here's how you waive coverage. And then for additional information, here's how you get a hold of the student health insurance or the student office. So it's a really comprehensive answer. It tells you the options, gives you the ability to sort of dive in further if you want to. And then, again, the escalation path is there. I think I have
Yeah.
one or two more if you want to keep rolling, Joe.
Sure.
And then how do I submit my health forms? So, hey, like we just talked about health insurance, or we just talked about health insurance, and now we're talking about different health forms for enrollment. And the AI properly interpreted this as, how do I submit health forms required for enrollment? Um, to submit them, follow these steps. Go read about the student health insurance plan, complete the private education self-certification form, submit these forms, which will vary based on your major. Allow 2 business days for it to be processed and reflected on your Banner account. And then if you have questions, here's where you go to get those questions answered. So again, providing some steps on what to do, giving you an escalation path, and sort of telling you how long things are going to take.
Yeah.
And then this is one of my favorites. Where do I confirm I'm going to SKMC 2025, 2026? So what is the process for confirming enrollment in this program for the 2025-2026 academic year? So once you've been accepted to SKMC, which in this case is a medical college at one of our institutions, you'll need to confirm your enrollment. So here's a step-by-step guide on how to do that. Review your acceptance letter, make sure you understand the terms, complete the form, pay the deposit, update your contact information, and attend the mandatory orientation session, right? And then you'll be able to register for classes. And then it gives very specific contact information for the Office of Admission for that particular medical school, so that we're not outside of, we're not giving you generic information about the higher level institution. We're getting specific with the SKMC, which is the medical college. So those are a few examples of why I think of FAQ bots coming in and providing some really great answers. I wanted to jump into integrated, but we do have another question that I wanted to answer. We currently use an outbound call center that's not very efficient. How can you differ than the current service we use? I will say that we primarily focus on inbound. We definitely do some outbound, but our primary focus is being there when the student needs us from an inbound perspective. So instead of your institution getting thousands of calls a month, imagine getting just a handful of the ones that aren't simple or easy to solve, that our agents have taken care of, right? And that is a fantastic way of looking at it. We also got asked, do you offer a help desk ITSM solution that's integrated into your existing solution? We absolutely do. So you'll have noticed on our little integration slide that we integrate with a ton of different ITSM tools. And for our customers that utilize us for IT support specifically, oftentimes they already have an ITSM tool, and we really want to just integrate with your existing tool. We will basically create an API integration. Our agents will work right out of your ITSM tool, so that all of your reporting, all of your escalation paths, all of your rules, they all still stay in place. You're in control of them. Our agents are just entering tickets in our software so that they can be most efficient, but it's all being stored and utilized within your ITSM system. For the student services side, many of our customers come to us for student services or one-stop support, and those departments and areas don't have an ITSM solution, right? They're not ticketing for their students at the moment. They're basically handling it through email or walk up and post-it notes going back and forth in the office. And so we do have a ticketing system that is specific to our use. We can utilize that. We can also allow you to utilize it. I always am trying to be blunt and upfront about the fact that that is not the most full-featured, amazing ticketing system in the entire world. It is really targeted towards student service. It has a lot of flexibility, but it's not anything that I would suggest you switch off of Team Dynamics or Zendesk or whatever you're using to get to, especially if you're an IT department. You've already got the things that you've got and you know how they work and you like them. we're happy to work within those bounds. But for our student services office, going from no ticketing to having ticketing so that we can keep track of everything, it really works slick. So.
All right.
Um, so I'd like to show a little bit about the next step in evolution, which is sort of that integrated data. If that's okay with you, Joe, I will share my
Yeah.
screen again. So when we talk about FAQ data, that's all data. All of those questions that we looked at and all of the demo that we looked at was data that is basically coming from sources that are generally publicly available, right? Where we think that we get an even bigger advantage is when we start to ask our AI questions that it can't answer for just anybody. It needs to know who you are, and that is basically personalized data. So I can ask something that is specific to me, like, do I have a hold on my account? When I ask that, it's going to ask me to verify. Now, I'm going to point out here that many people, especially if you're a security-oriented person, are looking at the things that we're authenticating on and going, "Oh, that's not how I would do it." Perfectly fine and a valid point. This is for a demo, obviously, but we can validate your identity through a lot of different ways, whether that's pulling information and comparing against it coming out of your SIS, whether that's doing a push to something like a Duo or an MFA provider, or whether that's some other way of handling it. We can authenticate the identity in a lot of different ways, even something as simple as just single sign-on, if you're not worried about them being locked out of that. So we are very happy to take whatever we can get here. And once we validate your identity, so in this case, I'm going to enter some identity validating information and hit submit. It's going to go back and compare that with my SIS data, and then it's going to go grab some information that's unique to me. And it's going to come back and say, yeah, you know what? You do have a hold on your record due to a prior semester balance. So it's giving me as much information as it can about the hold and what's going on so that I can try to um, uh, easily sort of get that information and resolve that issue, basically. Um, this one is a real fun one. It lets us get information that we normally wouldn't. Sorry, been very I've got things popping up, distracted. It lets us get information that we normally wouldn't that normal AIs wouldn't have access to. And right now it's a very transactional, hey, we need some information, we're gonna go get that information, we're gonna use it. In the future, as we continue to roll out our future AI frameworks, we are going to shift into a new sort of area where we're after we validate who you are, we're really showing the AI the menu of data that it has access to. So instead of trying to answer a specific question, the AI is going to look at all of the data that's available and pull what it thinks it needs to answer that question as comprehensively as possible. So in the future, instead of do I have a hold on my account being answered with yes, it will probably say yes, and here's how you take care of that, and here's how that's impacting. I did want to mention that somebody had asked a quick question. Do you leverage Illusion Ethos API framework? Absolutely, we do. That's one of our easy button options. We do use their Ethos framework a lot. So this is a great way of looking at existing student data. One of the things that we oftentimes, from an IT standpoint, get tasked with helping with is password resets. And students being able to reset their password on their own is nothing new. That exists in a lot of different ways. The problem is that students are oftentimes not willing to utilize the self-reset tools that are out there. They're not conversational and they don't sort of help the student through the process. Whether you call in or whether you jump into a chat with us, when you say, I need to reset my password, we're going to go through that process of validating your identity, whether it's popping up a form like that or whether it's asking individual questions over the phone, which is how we would handle it in a voice AI situation. Once we get to the reset your password point, um, it's going to then, in this case, it's not going to ask any questions because I've already identified myself, but it's going to actually be able to reset your password. So, hey, I've identified myself. However, the institution has decided that I need to. And now the AI has gone through and actually generated a one-time use password for me. So I can take this password and I can go log in using the link provided, and it's noting that, hey, this is a temporary password, and as soon as you log in, you'll have to change your password. So it's a what's called a TAP, a temporary access password. This sort of workflow is very customizable. And one of the reasons that we really see a huge benefit to the AI in a lot of situations as far as how many calls get taken care of automatically versus have to be escalated to a person. We all know that even though we've sent 47 emails on how to self-service your password, people still call and say, "Hey, I'm locked out," or "I need to change my password. How do I get access to my account?" And this will intelligently walk them through that process without sort of getting a human involved unless we run into a situation where we can't do it. And I think these use cases of pulling in that personalized data and using it as part of how the AI can answer your question, and even exposing different workflows like this password reset or other workflows are really important. We're giving our generative AI more and more tools as we go, which is part of that future sort of process. So if we pop back to the slide number 11, and we're looking at this issue flow, one of the pieces that is sort of a benign box there that doesn't look that impressive is integrated data, and it really shows we just looked at sort of the different integrated data points that we can talk about, whether that's data out of my SIS, data out of my CRM, data out of my ticketing system, data out of my IAM, the workflows that can act on that data. And then we get even further down the line into, hey, how does the AI interact given the menu of things it can do? Hey, these are the different options and opportunities that you have tools to interact with. So we're always looking for adding more additional tools. For instance, adding the ability for our AI to utilize SMS. So if it knows your phone number and you ask a question, it's like, hey, this is a really complicated answer. Can I just text you the link instead of trying to say it over the phone, or instead of trying to summarize? Can I just text you something that will help you get to the answer or the page that you need to? Or hey, I'm going to text you with your one-time access password so that you can easily read it on your phone. Things like that. Adding additional tools and ways to interact is really critical for us as we go forward. Making sure that the AI has all the tools and ways that it can sort of get data and be informed on how to utilize that data. Other questions, Joe, that you think I missed? We've included in the deck that will get sent out to everybody. We've included a few pages of information on sort of the basics of voice and chat AI and analytics. But I don't want to belabor the point by hitting slide after slide. I think we're ready for an additional poll here,
Yeah.
if I
Yeah.
didn't forget anything.
You did not. You did not. I think we've covered the bulk of it. So let me get to that slide. So here we are for poll question number two.
Yeah. Is your institution exploring human AI, a unique blend of are you utilizing? And basically, what's your appetite? Are you considering it? We are so excited about the idea of bringing these things together. It really capitalizes on the technology in a way that technology only companies can't. To say that, hey, yeah, I've got an AI that can do some things for me is great. But to say, hey, I've got some things that the AI can do for me, and all of the work that I put into making that data available to the AI is simultaneously available, makes it simultaneously available to a trained group of people that can answer those questions, is one of the areas that's most exciting. So every time you ingest data, every time we set up an integration with one of your on-campus systems, that means that our agents that could potentially be getting the escalations from the AI have access to all of that data as well. So suddenly, every time we have an integration point, we're really increasing the amount of information we can gather and use to provide answers to the students.
Yes. And those are sorts of things that my team on the client success side of things works with the clients on and assists Chris and the product team with making sure that those things get developed seamlessly. So we do work hand in hand. It's not that Chris does it all on just the product side in a vacuum by himself. The client success team works diligently to make sure that we're maximizing what we can do with the technologies that we have. So,
Yeah, and one of my favorite interactions there is getting to know the institution, right? The client success team is constantly having the conversation of what's going on campus, what's coming up, how do we make sure the AI and our human agents are prepared to handle the next sort of item in the student journey, right? Whether that's registration or whether that's add drop date, due date is coming up, or whatever that is, right? Finals are coming up. We want to make sure that we're specifically tuned for that and we have everything ready. Our customer success team is going to be talking to you and asking you about those things and making sure that we have all the data we need for them. Additionally, we're one of the few vendors that actually have a data team in-house. So they will work to provide ways to improve the AI on your behalf. So again, recognizing that maintaining an AI can take a lot of time and effort. The data team is going to look through unanswered questions. They're going to look through different things that are happening to the AI and determine whether there's different data that we can add, different formatting that we could do. How can we tweak and adjust this to really get the most out of it? Which is something that not a lot of other software providers do. It's so useful to have another set of eyes looking over that.
yes, for sure. For sure. We are definitely nearing the end of the webinar. And before we get to the just general open and question and answer session, first, again, just wanted to thank you all for taking your time. I know that your days are busy. There's lots of noise that goes on throughout the day. And so the fact that you took time to spend almost an hour with us says a lot. And we greatly appreciate that. And for those of you that took the time to do that, and attended, there is a 10% credit that you can utilize towards Black Belt Help's Human AI solution. You just need to claim it by July 18th. You can also see the link there to request a demo. And again, we will be sending out this deck afterhand so that you've got that information and can go back and look at the presentation or share it with others on campus that you knew wanted to be here, but maybe their schedules didn't allow for it. So by all means, please use that as an opportunity and take advantage of that offer if your institution's in a place where it's ready to begin exploring that as a solution. But without further ado, we are at the end, but I do want to leave it open here for a few minutes for folks to ask any remaining questions that they have. While you have Chris and I here with you, we would love to be able to continue to dialogue if there are more questions that you guys have. I see one came in.
Oh, how long does it take for setup? Great question. So depending on what pieces and parts we're utilizing, part of our contracting process is putting together a comprehensive implementation plan. And so the implementation team, during the sales process, will actually sit down and talk about what we need to be successful. We'll talk about the different solutions that we're handling and proposing, and then we will come out of that with a timeline. Most situations, we're talking between 4 and 8 weeks. So Workday and Slate. If it's Workday and Slate, those are integrations that are fairly well known to us. So that reduces the time a little bit, but it'll probably be between 6 and 8 weeks, depending on all of the different pieces and parts. There's a lot of options that sort of come with, okay, what do we want to support? How do we want to support it? Are we specifically looking at admissions or admissions plus student services? And what parts do we want to make sure we're supporting? Are there anything that we don't want to support? Getting into making sure that we're escalating things correctly. Is there, live human support involved or not involved? All of those things do change a little bit, but 4 to 8 weeks is the general gist, assuming that we've got open slots on the schedule.
Awesome. It's a great question. Any other last minute questions before we conclude for the day? All right. Well, Chris, it's been a pleasure hanging out with you and talking about our human AI solutions here at Black Belt Help, what's going on within the industry, and kind of what we can look forward to here in the future. For those who attended, again, thank you for your time. We greatly appreciate it. As indicated earlier, this information will be sent out to you at the conclusion of the webinar, so definitely be checking your email boxes to get the slide deck. Again, please feel free to share it out with folks as necessary. And if you'd love to learn more, by all means, go to our website, request a demo. If you're already a current client, feel free to reach out to your customer success manager, and also we can schedule a demo that way. But if there's a way to get a hold of us, please use it. We are grateful for your time and want to say thank you and look forward to interacting with you at our next webinar.